so much for joining us. We just started the recording, just giving a few moments for everyone to join us in the room. If you would like, you could put in the chat where you're joining us from today. We always like to know where everyone is from. Okay, it looks like we have everyone in the room. So we will go ahead and get started. My name's Sam Fletcher, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Chapter of NASW. I want to thank you for joining us for this very important chapter chat. Today, I am so happy that we have our amazing intern, Heather, with us, as well as my phenomenal colleague, Shakira. We're going to talk to you about how we've been able to do a non-traditional internship with Heather this year. Before we get started, I just want to give people an overview of Zoom. I think we all know Zoom by now. We should. We've been on it for 2 years at this point, but just in case, I did activate the closed caption. If you can't see it at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to move your cursor to the bottom of the page and it'll say CC or live transcript. And you can click that and then you'll be able to see the closed captioning. And we just ask that everyone stay muted while you're not talking. We'll begin by telling you our story and then we will open it up for discussion after that. And we want people just to jump in and be able to participate once we get to that part. And I'm seeing we have people from all over. So welcome. I'm very happy that you're here. If we have a small enough crowd, it looks like we may, you can just unmute when it's time to ask questions or participate with us. And just for those of you who may forget, if you want to change your view, for me on my computer, I have a PC, the view is at the top right-hand corner. And if you click on it, you can go from gallery and see everyone to just the speaker. So that's the way to change your view on Zoom. And I'm now going to be quiet and hand it over to Shakira to introduce herself.
Okay, thank you, Sam, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Shakira Maki. I'm our program coordinator here at the New York State Chapter of NASW, and I'm also Heather's task supervisor. I have the pleasure of being her task supervisor this year, and I'm very excited to be working with her. So I will stop talking, and now I will turn it over to Heather and get our chapter chat started.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. It's been a long journey, and it's been a struggle, but we are almost done with my MSW. So I've been a military spouse for over a decade, and my husband's been in the service. He's been in the Air Force for almost 15 years now. And in 2018, I graduated with my undergraduate in May, and shortly after that, we got orders to Kadena in Japan. So when we got here, I knew that I wanted to pursue my MSW, but I didn't realize how hard it would be to finish here on the island of Japan, the Okinawa. So I applied, I got into the MSW program, and I knew I would need an internship. So I began looking. I contacted over 20 organizations and helping agencies here, and the sister bases. We have, I think there's probably 8-10 bases on this island, maybe even more, but the ones I knew of, I contacted their helping agencies as well, just to see if I could get an internship here. What should have took me a year and a half has taken me 7 semesters, so 2.5 years to finish. I have had to go at a slower pace. I've had to take a few semesters off because if you're out of the program longer than a year, they'll disenroll you. And I didn't want to take the chance of getting disenrolled and having to reopen, maybe not even getting in. So it has taken me a long time. But over the course of the 2 years, I've contacted many agencies, and their reasons for not giving me an internship is we don't take interns, we won't sign the affiliation with your university, we cannot allow anyone into the private information, the private personal information. And one chaplain on the base told me that he currently has an intern, but he's not supposed to take an intern, and wasn't aware of that, so no longer taking interns. And so after a year of no's, I took to Facebook to it's a military spouse mental health page, and we kind of just get on there and help each other out and try to be support systems for each other. So I took to the page and I asked who else is experiencing this, and there was over 20 comments of I can't find an intern, I'm overseas and I can't find an intern. And I just like to read a few of those with you. So when thought that with the when thought with this 2 different master's degree programs needing an internship, I laughed at it because the GS staff on base were asking for I was laughed at for just for asking for any help or direction. And so she couldn't find an internship. And then I was in Okinawa for 5 years and I was told no for every internship on the island, or every possible internship for the island. And she said I was very plugged in, but I still couldn't get approval. And then I was at Kadena, which is in Japan, from 2016 to 2019, and I was denied internships and was told I had to put my degree on hold. And then this is an ongoing problem with internships on the island. I'm struggling with this as well. No internships on the base facilities are allowed. Last time I checked, there are no internships allowed. So, and the list goes on. There are tons of military spouses that cannot find internships, and they are in an area that is very remote, and they're not willing to take them. So after seeing that this was such a widespread problem across military military spouses, I reached out to my congressman, and he was able to contact the wing here at Kadena and talk to the commander, and the commander kind of blew it off. He didn't lie in his letter back. Our programs that are available to military spouses to help them get jobs and to help them plug in and help them volunteer. But and those are all great programs, but he just pretty much said it's a sacrifice that military spouses make. And I was just not willing to stop looking. And eventually I did find an internship. And it was a month before my class started. And I stayed up late and I did the interview and I got the internship. And then the next morning, she emailed me, this social worker emailed me and said, "I'm sorry, our agency cannot take a social worker in Japan." And I just remember being in a puddle of tears, like knowing that I wasn't going to get an internship and I was going to have to be disenrolled because I had another year before I could get to the States. So I thought I was lost. But then on this military mental health spouses page, someone posted the NSAW New York State Chapter internship. And I was like, well, I kind of threw a Hail Mary. I was like, maybe they'll take me. So it was 4 days semester started. And so we, within a couple days, we were contacting each other, and we did a Zoom interview, and Samantha did all the paperwork for my program all in one day and got it all set up. And they did take me in as an intern, and I will be able to finish my degree. But for many other spouses located in remote areas, that is not the case. So that's just a little bit of my story, and we're going to talk about the dynamics of our internship and how we make that work.
Sorry, thank you, Heather. I just was trying to unmute. So yeah, Heather, she came to us with very little time, and we were, still luckily had a few internship spots open. So as I mentioned, for any of those of you who came a little late, I'm Heather's task supervisor. So I don't provide direct supervision to her, but I do give her tasks and provide supervision and support surrounding the tasks that she's doing. So what I think, one, our team just works really well together, and overall we want to support students and we want to see them do well. But what really works is that the work that Heather does is pretty self-directed. All of our interns are virtual, so it takes a person who is self-directed to do, I think, a completely virtual internship. And also it takes, you know, the internship placement to be willing to work with a student in Heather's situation. And, you know, we're willing to do that. And we make a lot of, you know, sacrifices, I guess. And I was saying to Heather a little earlier, I said, I honestly feel like it's you who's sacrificing a lot because, you know, you're meeting with us at times that are, you know, convenient as possible for both of us with the time difference. But our meetings, you know, are typical 9-10 o'clock meetings. And like, that's like 11 o'clock sometimes for Heather, but she's amazing and she's willing to help and she's willing to work. And we just are trying, you know, we want to make sure she's getting the most she can out of the learning experience, because obviously it's not a traditional one, but there is a lot of learning to be had. So, you know, we're so thankful that Heather found us. I was telling her that I'm just like, you know, I'm so glad you reached out because you've been amazing. And, you know, you're so, you just do so much. You're so helpful. You're so willing to give things a try. And I'm glad that we gave her a try. And like, just kind of from the perspective of the placement, and I'll let Sam talk a little bit more about this too. I definitely think it takes some willingness to be creative and to be flexible. Because, you know, we've all had to use some of our creativity and flexibility throughout this pandemic. And I don't think it's any different with a unique situation like this. And, you know, it just is a matter of being willing to like tap into that and, you know, help students, because overall we want to be graduating more social workers. And, you know, when we see a capable social worker, we should do what we can to help them get further. So I'll probably have more to say, but I'll turn it over to Sam to see if she has anything additional.
Thank you, Shakira and Heather. And as you're talking, I've been thinking I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to talk a little bit about me. And the reason is because I think it'll explain like why, one of the reasons we have this culture at the chapter. When I went back to school for my MSW in my late 30s, and I had 3 kids. My husband worked nights, so I was the only caregiver for them during the week. One of my kids has pretty severe special needs. And the hardest part about going to school was the field placement. And I had to pay a special needs babysitter for the couple of hours between when I got off my, you know, field placement before I got home after they got out of school. And, you know, it was one of those things that I was willing, I would have worked through the middle of the night. I would have worked on the weekend. I would have done anything to have a flexible schedule during my field placement. It would have been a much less stressful time if the field placements would have just been flexible on time. So I give you that background because that is a priority for me with students. And we love, as Shakira said, we love working with students. Last year, we ended up taking a total of 12 students to help. We really wanted to help the schools in New York. Just during COVID, they were having a really hard time finding placements, and we had this virtual placement option. And then this year, between last semester and this semester, we've had 12 students. Last year I did the supervision for all the students. So this year we have one other person who can provide supervision. So she supervises 2 and I provide the supervision for everyone else. And I'm a rule follower. So if the rules say you get an hour a week, you get an hour a week. And the only time that we haven't done that is right now. We're in a period of 8 weeks where one of our team members is out on maternity leave. And so I'm picking up a lot of her job. So we're doing group supervision every other week and then an hour supervision the other weeks just while she's out. But that's kind of the reason why, like, we've set up our field placements this way. And we tell everyone, I don't really care when you work. Like, we have some of our interns who have full-time jobs. So we have one intern who works overnight. So she'll come to our check-ins and then she goes to bed. So, you know, she does her hours at all different times. And we just don't care. Like, we're like, there's certain things we'll work with you. So for Heather, first of all, we met Heather and we have a pretty competitive placement. Like, we do interview everyone and we probably it's about maybe a third or a fourth of the people who apply we're able to take. But Heather was just so unbelievably lovely. Like when we met her, and she, just was, you could tell she was a hard worker, and she just wanted the opportunity to contribute to a team and to finish this degree. We also have a veterans grant. So I'm very partial to military families, and, we just wanted to work with her. So the way Heather and I work together, she does all of her tasks and everything is with Shakira. So her and Shakira work together most of the time, but we do the supervision. So we meet on Wednesday mornings. It's 8 o'clock my time, and I think it's 9 o'clock your time, right? At night.
That's correct, 9 o'clock at night. Now, when the time difference changes, it makes it 10 o'clock.
So then,
my
yeah,
time.
so yeah, then you're going to be 10 o'clock and I'll be 8 o'clock. And there's a few times we emailed like, aren't we meeting right now? One of us would be like, no, it's in an hour, or we can, let's just meet now. So we meet then. And then Heather, like, I've been so impressed because we do check-ins with our interns in the morning. So she'll stay up and do a check-in. Like Shakira will tell me like, oh, we had a meeting like 11 o'clock our time and Heather went to it. So it's like in the middle of the night, like that's like, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning for her. So like I agree, Shakira. I think that Heather's made the most because she has children. So she's raising kids, taking care of kids, and then doing her field internship like in the middle of the night. But that's how we've made it work. And I think it helps that we're macro. So Heather's not working with clients to do therapy, but she does meet with people. Like she works with Shakira and she meets with different people that are doing things with our chapter, and she meets with them during our time of day. Did I miss anything, Heather or Shakira? Did I leave anything out?
No, I think that's great. I do feel that you all sacrifice them because they do make accommodations. They might meet an hour later than they might have normally would, but I do appreciate them. And I would have worked on Monday through Friday all night long to get this done. I'm just thrilled that they gave me the opportunity, and I hope doing this chapter chat will open up some doors for other military spouses to finish their degrees, because we do follow our husbands around. We don't want to separate our families, so of course we're going to come overseas with them, and then we're here, and we already sacrificed being away from our family. So if we could finish our education or make it a little easier for the spouses to finish their education, that would be phenomenal for the military spouses, and definitely their mental health, because you're by yourself. And when you could pursue your education and because you're not working overseas, most of them are not working overseas, you can really focus on your education, and this is the best time to finish it. And then you're like, you're walled in because you can't, because the base is no, we won't allow it. And so I hope this will just shine some light and hopefully open some internship opportunities for other spouses.
And Heather, I see Alyssa. I hope I said your name right, Alyssa. I did. Okay, good. She has a question for you. She said, what tasks are included in your internship?
My internship involves researching presenters to find, so I work with the program coordinator. So we do the CE trainings for it. So I will research into presenters, and then I'll do reach outs where I'll contact them and see if they're interested in doing a CE training for the membership. And if they reach out back, we'll set up meetings and I'll Zoom with them and see if they're a good fit. Me and Shakira will see if they're a good fit for doing the CE training, as well as sitting in with the student conference. I will help plan in the student conference that comes up in February.
And Heather is forgetting a very large part of her internship, which involves her helping with our program evaluation. So she does a lot of work with data collection and data analysis. She's really selling it short. She does a lot. She really does help with a lot. And the program evaluation is a pretty large project, and it's a project that she'll work on for the entirety of her internship. As she was saying, she works with me on our continuing education program. So I'm kind of giving her the opportunity to see the program the whole entirety of a program from the beginning to the end. So she has the opportunity to do the reaching out and researching different presenters. And, she knows the criteria for the presenters we want. And we have these meetings with these presenters. So she's getting the opportunity to coordinate things and, speak to people and learn how to, set up different sorts of partnerships. And then, we have the process of creating the training with the presenter, and then we're looking at the data end of it. So once the training has occurred, now, what went really well with our trainings, what didn't go so well, what do we need to do better for next year? So she's getting to have some fun and dive into the data aspect of it and, help us to do some quality improvement. So she's getting a very, very macro social work experience. And I was telling her, I think it's really good because she also has some clinical, and now she's getting to see a very, very macro side. So she has a nice exposure, I guess, to a few different sides of social work. So and then there's the student conference, which is also a very huge project that she's been very integral in helping with as well. So yeah, Sam, are you gonna do the questions? I mean, I can.
I'm gonna, actually, I'll ask you, can you put our info? So Deb said, how or who does someone contact about internships with New York State NASW? So Shakira, do you mind putting the info email in?
Yeah.
So you'll send your resume and a cover letter to the email address that Shakira is putting in there. And we're going to start doing interviews probably late February, early March. Our team member who's out with maternity leave is a big part of this process, and I know she wants to be a part of it. So we're waiting. She's technically not coming back till the end of March, but said she wanted to do interviews for this. So we're gonna give her a few weeks with her baby and then see when she wants to start doing the different interviews. But I did want to tell you, I'll give you kind of an overview of how interns work with us. We have 4 major areas at the chapter that we cover. One is advocacy. Our national office covers all the federal advocacy and policy work, and we're responsible for the state. We take 2 policy interns every year, and they work with our policy team. That one is really competitive. They get some pretty phenomenal opportunities to meet with legislators, to review, the budget, the state budget, the governor's proposals. They can write position papers. They do all sorts of things. We have a capital action day that they help plan. So those are our policy interns. Shakira typically takes 2 interns. So she described what Heather's doing. Do you want to describe what your other intern does?
Sure. So the other aspect of the chapter that I work in, aside from our continuing education, is our divisions, which our chapter is split up into 10 geographical divisions across the state. And so to think about it, we have kind of like satellite chapters basically across the state. So I support the division directors and all the work that they do. So my other intern works with me in helping support the division directors, coordinating different sort of engagement programs and membership opportunities for members in those specific divisions. So I have an intern that helps with that, and that intern would also help with the student conference. So both of the interns have an opportunity to work together during the student conference, and then they each have their own thing. One of them is the data collection and the other is the divisions. And actually all of our interns kind of get the opportunity to work together on the student conference because it's a conference that is for students. So we believe in having students, help decide what should happen there. So those are what my 2 internship positions look like. And then Sam, did you talk about the other ones?
No. So then we have, Shakira, as you heard, she's in charge at our chapter. She really runs most of our, what's the word, professional development.
Professional development.
Yeah, a lot of our professional development programs. And then she does a lot of the networking because she works with the division. So those are 2 main areas of the chapter. Then we have social justice. areas that we do. So Amelia works with a lot of the social justice interns. So we have a huge race initiative. It's not a race initiative, we have race initiatives. So we have an intern who helps with the race initiatives. Right now we have an intern who's working on our LGBTQ initiatives. On top, like they're planning events, they're facilitating events, they're doing the social media for the events, they're organizing how the teams that work on those things work. We also have, I try not to take an intern because I do all the supervision or most of the supervision for the chapter, but then I always end up with one. So last year I had an intern who wanted to really follow me to know like what I did. So that's what she did all year. And then this year we had an intern who's an immigrant, and he had a very poor first field experience to where he was pretty much abused. And I did not like that. So when he was talking about that experience and what he wanted to do, I'm like, you're going to come work with me. So he's doing a whole program, putting together programs on immigration. And I told him what I wanted him to do is work on a proposal for if he was to open his own immigration nonprofit. Like, so that's what I'm kind of working with him on, is like all the business side and then like programming and different things like that. Then we happened to take on 2 more interns this year just because they needed placements for this semester and there weren't any. And they're with us 30 hours a week each. So they're doing a lot of different things for us, a lot of support of our communications person and kind of getting a feel for all of the chapter things. So there's a lot of things to do at the chapter. There's a lot of, when we interview people, we tell them like the different areas. I do want to get to Olivia asked a really good question. She said, is there any opportunities to obtain licensure hours while living overseas? That's going to depend on the state you want to practice in. So the way licensure works is every state has their own licensing laws. And in New York State, students can't get licensing hours. You can't, like, the way it works in New York is when you graduate, as long as you've gone to a CSWE accredited program, you've met the educational requirements to sit for the first licensing exam to be a licensed master social worker. So as long as you pass the exam, you can become licensed, and then you can work under the supervision of a licensed clinical social worker. We have another level of licensing. We call them an LCSWR, a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, and you can do clinical hours to work toward your clinical license. But every state is different. So whatever state that you want to look at practicing in, you should contact their licensing board. So I met with my colleague from Connecticut yesterday, and he was telling me that they don't have a licensing board, that their Office of Professions is in the Department of Health. So you kind of have to Google whatever state you're looking at, social work licensing in, name the state, and see where you need to go to get that information. But that's a great question. Okay, I'm just looking to see, do other state chapters have similar programs and take remote students? So you'd have to reach out to the chapters. You can Google, if you've seen one NASW chapter, you've seen one NASW chapter, where, we have a lot of autonomy on how we run our chapters and what we do. So the best way to find your state chapter is you can put NASW in the name of the state and in a Google search, and it'll pop up. And then I would contact that office. We take a lot of interns. I don't know anyone who takes as many as we take. I know some of my colleagues take 2 or 3, but a lot of them will take at least 1. So you want to reach out and ask them, like, what they do and if they do it. And again, different states have different laws. So I can't speak to anyone else's state's laws. Okay, I'm just seeing. Is it possible? Okay, I already read Olivia's question. These are great questions. Does anyone, and you can feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions for me, Shakira, or Heather. And Shakira and Heather, do you want to add anything else? Oh, wait, I see a question. Haley. Haley says, do interns with NASW New York get any micro experience? I am currently completing my final practicum with a managed care company. It's been great, but I often think that I missed out on direct practice experience. That's a great question, Haley. No, is the answer. To give you the short answer, it's no. We don't do NASW, really, when I describe it, we're really a business. We run like a business, and our job is to support the social workers in New York State with anything they need. So we do a lot of work around licensing in the state. We support our private practitioners. We do a lot of support like with the advocacy. Pretty much like our culture at our chapter is our members really drive what we do. If they're asking for something, we do everything in our power to get them that resource. So we're a membership organization and a business. But yeah, no clinical with us. We don't see clients. We even have people who will email us asking for referrals. We can't do that. Like we're macro. We're absolutely 100% macro social workers at the chapter. And then Olivia says, I am searching for a virtual licensure placement located in Texas to complete my licensure hours once I graduate in August 2022. You should reach out to the Texas chapter. Will Francis has my position. He's the executive director there. And I've been to his website, but they should have like a staff page or something there that you can email. We usually send everyone to our general email account, and Justine is the person who covers that most of the time. She's phenomenal. She gets the message to whoever on staff needs it. Or they may have someone on there that like works with students that you might be able to talk to a student, but they're pretty responsive. So I would reach out to them and see. I know one thing I know is Will knows the licensing in Texas because I've heard him talk about it. So they're knowledgeable to get you that information. Do I have his website? I don't have it offhand.
I'm trying to put it in the chat for you right now, Olivia. I put the wrong link, but I'll put the right one in a second.
Yeah, that's it. And a lot of times that is it. Like what Shakir put, a lot of times it'll be NASW and then the abbreviation of the state. I'm just waiting for questions. Feel free to unmute and ask. You can type it in. Heather, did you want to add anything else or anything else that you think is important for people to know?
I can't think of anything. I'm just really grateful that you took the turn and that you've allowed me to this platform to maybe shine on this issue.
You're breaking up a little, but I heard that you're grateful and we're grateful that we have you. We tell Heather all the time what a great intern she is and like how much we enjoy working with her. I should probably mention this too. Another part of the culture that we have is everything is team-based. We work as a team. We really work without hierarchy. It's a weird concept if you've never worked in an environment like that. I'm Native and it comes from Native culture to not really have hierarchy. And the interns are team members. They're just like any other team member with us. So like, not that we throw them out to, sink or swim, but like, there's a lot of support for the interns, but we do treat them just like any other team member. Okay, I've got a couple more questions that came in. Olivia, would that website be okay to contact if my degree is in clinical mental health counseling? You can try it, Olivia. I don't know for sure. We know a little bit about the mental health counseling in New York State. Like, I'm certainly not an expert, but if you reached out and asked us about it, I would know where to send you to ask questions. So I wouldn't be surprised if they know the same thing in Texas. So that's a good question. Okay, and Alyssa, does anyone have any resources for finding internships with a stipend or remote internships with micro experience? I don't have that information. In New York State, we have contracts with multiple schools. I want to say probably like 7. Most of the schools have a clause in the contract saying that we can't pay interns. It's just part of the internship agreement. But I will tell you, this has come up because this has come up a lot, asking for like paid internships. We are a nonprofit. And if you're in social work, you know what that means. Like nonprofits are, we're always, scraping for funds. So my answer to this is typically, I like how you said stipend, because stipend is different than paid. Stipend is, looking, for some chunk of money. What we typically do at the chapter is we provide our interns with a lot of free resources, like license, test prep, any training they want to go to, things like that. If I was told I had to pay interns, like a staff member, I wouldn't take interns. And the reason for that is that the team is amazing. The team that I work with is phenomenal. There's no way I can pay them what they deserve because they're just a really phenomenal team. And every time we have extra money, it goes into their pocket. Like anytime I can do bonuses, it goes directly into the team's pocket. And the reason for that distinction is the team members that we have are trained. They have all the skill sets. They were hired to do a job. They were hired with the skill sets. They already have that. With students, I always view the students as a time to learn, a time to mess up, a time, this is a time that you're learning and you're developing the skill set. Also, if I was paying you, you'd have to do work, the work of the chapter. And our interns do not do the work of the chapter. They do projects and they do things that aren't essential to running the business. So they wouldn't want to intern here if they were paid, because they would not have the experience that they have being unpaid and being able to work on those projects. Because, like answering our general email account is not fun. Like, doing the work that, like the paid team does is not always fun. It's that, but those are the things that have to be done to run the chapter. So in New York, I don't know of a lot of paid internships. Really, the only one I know of that's paid is the VA, because it's a federal placement. Then remote internships with micro experience. We do have one that I know of in New York. One of our members offers an internship that's clinical, that's virtual ward. I don't have that information readily available. Do you remember what his program is called?
I know it's mobile counseling. Who's asking? Because I can take their
That's
email
it.
and connect them.
Yeah, Alyssa. It's mobile counseling, mobile crisis counseling or something like that. And he does offer virtual internships, and they're clinical, because I asked. And they have the correct clinical supervision. So it's a good question. Okay, Liz, what universities accept a macro-based field placement? I think it is excellent that Heather's accepted macro, as I needed to have direct clinical practice with clients, manage 5 to 8 client cases. I am interested in this shift. Okay, so in New York State, almost all of the schools offer a macro track. I went to UAlbany and we had a macro or clinical track. Interestingly enough, as a student, I went the clinical track and I've never worked a day of clinical practice. I've only worked macro, but we always have students from UAlbany. We have students from Brockport. We have students from, we provide BSW, which is generalist placement, MSW first year and MSW second year. So we've done Marist, Skidmore, Mercy, Brockport, Buffalo, UAlbany. I feel like I'm forgetting someone, but most of them in New York. Most of them in New York have a macro placement. And then we have one of our team members is actually in an MSW program and she goes to Stony Brook and has a macro placement. So I know Stony Brook does. Oh, NYU. We also work with NYU. Okay, Rio. Hello, Sam, Shakira, and Heather. Thank you for holding this space to discuss such a unique and important situation and issue. I'm hoping that I may be able to connect with you in the near future to talk through a bit more the possibility of offering internship opportunities to burgeoning. So, oh, that'd be amazing. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. One more note, however, is that I and our organization is located in LA, but in my previous social work life was based in New York. I may need to drop off soon. Yes, definitely contact us and we can tell you how we've done it. And Heather lives in Japan, but her school's New Mexico. She goes, what's your school called, Heather?
It's Western New Mexico.
Western New Mexico. So if anyone who's willing to do this, I mean, all we did was post, we are looking for interns for specific positions, and that's how Heather found us. And we would, we could help you advertise that.
Sam, this is Rio May. I just took myself off of mute and I am going to jump off in just a moment. But the other intersection that I thought was really incredible and why I jumped at the opportunity to join the call is because I do work on a military veteran family program. So hearing about your situation, Heather, and this opportunity to support military spouses who are really facing some difficult challenges. I mean, there are wonderful opportunities being connected to the military, but just again, keeping an eye to military culture and trying to figure out opportunity for those military spouses. So I am going to jump off, but hopefully I can connect with you, Sam, or Shakira and Heather and talk a little bit more about where I am and how I might be able to take some of the info to our organization and make some opportunities available to other folks. So I just wanted to say thank you again for holding space, and I'm excited to connect.
I'm excited too. Thank you, Rio May. And sorry, I just called you Rio, but that's amazing.
That's awesome. So have a good evening, good morning, depending on where folks are, and we'll be in touch very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. That's exciting. This is what we wanted, Heather. Like, isn't this great? Okay. Okay, Crystal. For other NASW chapters who currently do not have virtual internships, have you created any informational resources about this model that may be shared with others? So I have worked with other chapters and I'm willing to work with any chapter. So any chapter that reaches out and asks, like, how do you do this or how do you do that? We meet with them. And I have met with several. I don't know if we've met specifically about the internship model. I know that I've talked about it in meetings with some of my colleagues. We've talked about it, but that's something that I'm more than willing to talk about with anyone. So if you're working with a chapter and you tell them what we're doing, you can say, hey, reach out to Sam. She said she would talk to you about how they manage it. Do you accept interns from universities that don't have a, Yeah, thank you. Manka asked, do we accept interns from universities that we don't have a contract with? The answer is yes. We do new contracts all the time. I can do them in my sleep now. So yes, we do that. It's really up to the school, like if the school is a good fit, because, like, I think it was maybe Liz who mentioned that like their school they only do clinical placements, and we can't do that. Ours is just fully macro for sure. I do say that, I do want to give a little caveat that I use clinical skills all the time. I'm not a clinical social worker. I've never been a clinical social worker. I've only worked macro, but I've definitely used my education and used clinical skills all the time. All right, I'm going to see if Shakira or Heather have anything else that they would like to add.
I don't have anything. I just, again, thank you to everyone for joining. And if anyone does have any questions or wants to know a little bit more, get a little more detail, please feel free to reach out. Like Sam said, we're always willing to talk, find a time for us to talk and kind of talk through a little deeper if need be, how this process has gone. But just again, I'm excited to be here. I'm happy to do this with Heather. I love working with her, and I'm so glad that she reached out to us. It's been a treat to work with her.
I don't have anything else to add either. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you. I just want to echo that we love working with Heather. So, and I want to thank Heather for bringing this up and wanting to do this chat, because I think it's such an important topic. And I'm so happy that May Rio wants to do this work and offer this opportunity. That's more than we could have hoped for. That I feel like we've been very successful in this. But yeah, definitely reach out to us if you have any questions. And we are recording, and this will go on our chapter chat page in the next few days, I should say. But yes, yeah, we'll send that out. Actually, before we go, let me just put a link of our chapter chat page, because you may not know where that is. And I want to make sure that you can find this, because it is good information. All right, that's our chapter chat page that you'll be able to find the recording there, as well as the recording of all our previous chapter chats. So hopefully you find that as a resource and learn more about social work and the work that we do. So I just want to thank everyone for coming, and a huge thanks to Shakira and Heather for doing this. And we look forward to seeing you at some of our future events.
Have a good night, everyone.
Okay.
Or morning, depending.